Can everyone hear me? I think so. Yep. All right. We are 1 minute till we get started. Good morning. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome you to the school board meeting this Tuesday, June 16th, 2026 at the Northport City Hall Chambers. As we begin our program, we will open with an invocation. Please welcome Pastor J.D. Mallory from the Gulf Coast Church in Northport.
Good morning. Let's bow for prayer. Lord, we're challenged in your word in 1 Timothy to pray for all people, to ask God to help them, to intercede for them, to give them thanks and praise. We're challenged to pray for all who are in authority so that we can live peaceful and quiet lives marked with godliness and dignity. Lord, so because of this, I pray for the people of Sarasota County, our elected officials, and the many people who accompany them in these positions of leadership and service. I pray that you would bless them and strengthen them, give them discernment, and that they would value the importance of making good and wise decisions. I pray that our leaders would find policies that serve our students and families and create an environment for the growth of strong communities. And I pray that, God, you would equip them to make good decisions that will be worthy of respect. Ultimately, Lord, I pray that with your help, our leaders here today would fulfill the purpose that you have called them to, a purpose that was revealed in Scripture through the prophet Micah, who said, "O people, the Lord has told you what is good, and this is what he requires of you, to do what is right, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God." Lord, let this be a challenge we hold on to today. It's in the name of Jesus I pray. Amen.
Thank you so much, Pastor. At this time, we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. Please remove your hat and place your phones on silent and stand with us. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, well, again, we're excited to be here in Northport. Thank you to the City of Northport for allowing us to utilize their beautiful chambers. But before we move on, I need a motion and a second to adopt the agenda with the proposed additions after the original publication. Is there a motion? Item 3.1. Anyone have a cheat sheet? Because there's quite a few.
I move that the Sarasota County School Board approve the agenda submitted on June 9th with the following changes added to the agenda. Addendum to the Human Resources Personnel Report, amendment to the Lantern Services Agreement, Superintendent's Financial Reports for January, February 2026, new and revised job descriptions. What has been withdrawn is the approval of the school planning agreement for the High Hat Ranch development. Item moved to July is the interlocal agreement for the use of county property for construction staging area for the Sarasota High School HVAC project.
I have a motion by Mr. Edwards. Is there a second? Second. I have a second by Mrs. Rose. Are there any comments? Seeing none, we will vote on the item through the computer? Okay, forgive me, we're using new tech, so. All members, please vote on the motion before you. Oh, I like this one. And the motion passes unanimously, and we will move on now to the superintendent's report. Mr. Connor.
Well, good morning, Madam Chair, school board members, community. It's great to be down here in Northport today. Before I begin, I want to provide several updates that highlight the outstanding work of our schools. This year, as you know, we have concluded another successful year. But before that, I want to talk about our consent agenda. and highlight a few items there. The first item is 8.8, which is the contract with Full Spectrum Behavioral Therapy. This provides specialized training and support for educators serving students who require intensive behavior interventions. It is an investment that strengthens our ability with our exceptional student education populations and our programs across the district, providing RBTs and BCBAs where needed. Item 8.42 is the proposed 26-27 5-year capital plan. It serves as our roadmap for facility investments, making sure that our capital projects, growth management, and our long-range planning is all aligned according to our funding and revenue. Item 8.48 through 8.52 is our partnership that we are embarking on with our local charter schools in providing a school resource officer services through law enforcement agreements. As you know, you may know, the Sarasota County Sheriff's Office is discontinuing those services at those charter schools, and they have approached us as a law enforcement agency to provide those services. And so we do have schools such as the SCF Collegiate School, the Inglewood Sky Academy, Sarasota Academy of the Arts, and Sarasota School of Arts and Sciences, as well as Venice Sky Academy, that will be coming on board with our law enforcement agencies, and we will be fully charging those charter schools for those services in its entirety. Item 8.53 through 8.60 in the advertisement of our revised board policies at our last workshop. There were several of those, as you can see on the screen, as well as a new e-bike policy that we will be advertising during this consent agenda. I'm pleased to recognize the outstanding achievements of Tuttle Elementary School. A 5th grade student who was Noah Moyes was captain of the School Safety Patrol Program, was recently named the 25-26 Florida, the statewide AAA School Safety Patroller of the Year. This recognition is awarded annually to one student in the entire state who has demonstrated exceptional leadership, responsibility, and commitment to school safety. So congratulations to Noah and Tuttle Elementary for this proud recognition. As we enter the summer months, we do remain committed to the support of the well-being of our community, of our students and our families, and through the partnership with All Faiths Food Bank and their campaign against summer hunger, we will be providing free meals throughout the community for our children at nearly 40 locations. So if you want more information on this, where the sites are, you can go to our district website, or you can contact our Food and Nutrition Service Department. We're very grateful for All Foods Food Bank and our partnership with them. Each year, or twice a year, we actually have the great responsibility and privilege to recognize our educators. And this spring, 6 of our Sarasota County educators were recognized through the Barancic Foundation's Ripple Effect Teacher Award. The honor goes to educators whose impact extends well beyond the classroom and leaves a lasting influence on our students and families. And each of these recipients received $5,000 in recognition for their work, thanks to the Barancic Foundation. So you can help me congratulate the following individuals: Hal Anderson, who is the Law Academy Coordinator and Instructor at Booker High School; Megan Ellers, the Marine Science Teacher at Sarasota High School; Ken Hall, the Access Teacher at Oak Park School; Stacy Lenz, Math Teacher at Gulfgate Elementary; Tanya Quinn, who is a literacy coach and interventionist at Philip B. Shores Elementary; and Aaron Tuttle, an ESE resource teacher at Brentwood Elementary. Congratulations to those individuals. Well, it is summertime, and it is that time as we prepare for the next school year, as we're entering the 26-27 school year. It's time to acknowledge several leadership appointments. We have a couple of shuffles going around the district this year. So Mr. Sean Donovan, who you see in the middle here, will be transitioning as the principal of Oak Park to the principal of Sarasota High School. Mr. Dustin Coleman, who has served as an assistant principal at Oak Park, will be replacing Mr. Sean Donovan as the new principal of Oak Park School. And Mr. Ryan Chase, who was the principal at Sarasota High School, will be moving into a district leadership position where he'll continue to supporting our leaders and our professional learning and many other district initiatives for the coming school year. Congratulations to these individuals. Well, we're just kicking off summer, but it's not too late to start thinking about 26, or too early, I should say, to think about 26, 27. And we're launching our new transportation system. We're already in the testing phase of that through our summer school programs. And I want to encourage all of our families who use our bus transportation to and from school to go ahead now and download the new My Ride K-12 app. It will be replacing the Where's the Bus platform. So this is an updated system. What's really good about the new system in Tyler Technologies is that there's an integration of all those platforms, from routing to this particular app, to making sure that there is a seamless overall efficiency to our transportation needs. It always comes with some bumps in the beginning of the year as we get students loaded and registered. If we want to make sure students do register early. So if you need to be registered by July 27th on this app, so that you will have your route all ready to go on day one. And don't forget, the first day of school is August 10th. Speaking of start times and school starting, our times are changing for some of our schools. We have been blasting this out on our social media as well as our website. There are 3 major tiers that we are embarking on next year, but there are some schools, select schools, that will be different. So you want to make sure you check our website, search up school start times to understand exactly what school you attend and what their start time. But generally, our high schools will be starting at 7:30 a.m., our elementaries and K-8s will be at 8:30, and our middle schools will be at 9:30. For those exceptions, please again go to the website to find your school's specific time. And today, board, I will be presenting on our discussion agenda item a new initiative that I'm excited about. As you know, and it's such a coincidence that we're down here in Northport to talk about this as we put this item on the agenda. We've been doing a lot of work over the last few years with our vaping task force, and I see we have one of our originators here today with us, who really launched this off 2 years ago, and almost 3 years ago, actually. And this work has been continuing on, and I really have to say congratulations and thank you to Northport High School, who has had a tremendous presence on this task force with the DeFi group. And we've been doing a lot of initiatives, from educating, how do we go about educating students about the dangers of vaping? How do we really enforce consequences that are really going to send a strong message about vaping on our campuses? And that is in our proposed student code of conduct, which is also on our discussion item today for advertisement. We've really beefed up the consequences for that, as well as really just eradicating the entire vaping epidemic in our schools. And so one thing that Northport has been very vocal about is the success of Port Charlotte and what they're doing with the vape detection system. And so we've been in contact, we've been looking at different solutions to see how we could create a proof of concept, starting with Northport High School, going into the school year. And so I want to thank all of the team members, Dr. Megan Green, our Principal Rylan Shirley is here, who have been instrumental in getting us to this point. So we chose, or I'm proposing today, Verkada, and that is what is used in Port Charlotte, or in Charlotte County. And we believe that it is the best fit for this particular pilot. We looked at several different programs and their capabilities, and believe that Verkada had the ability to integrate with the Smart Pass system, which is just launched at Northport High School during the fourth quarter, which I'll talk a little about in a minute. So we chose Verkada based on just checking many of the capabilities we were looking for in a system of this type. So in this pilot year, we're focused really on prevention. It's going to provide several goals for us in terms of reducing vaping on campus, making sure that we have the intervention and support, giving us the actionable data needed to make those decisions, and improve administrative response time, which is really very burdensome for administrators. There are so many things that school administrators have to be responsible for, and chasing down students in this very elusive issue becomes very time consuming, and so this should help in that. And of course, keeping students in class is the ultimate goal, and so it should protect and improve instructional time. So the team has been hard at work. They've done a site assessment. They've been doing a lot of planning. They've been walking with the vendor to talk about infrastructure needs and making sure that the locations and the restroom areas have all been identified, how many sensors are going to be required, what are the camera coverages needed, and all of the IT infrastructure needed in that particular pilot. During that time, the recommendation is to install 63 of these sensors throughout the campus, as well as 29 cameras. Along with all the cabling and the infrastructure, that first year investment is really, the bulk of it is capital infrastructure at $170,000 roughly. Actually, about 130 for the capital side of that, and then 40 for the additional cabling and switches and the network connectivity for the program. And then, of course, there is licensing costs, and so we're reviewing that after this pilot, whether we want to do a 1 year, a 3 year, or 5 year. Obviously, the more years that we're able to create savings, but we want to make sure that we feel comfortable about the pilot and the results of that. So the total all-in year one investment for this is $170,000, but that will dramatically decrease in the licensing costs after that. So the proof of concept essentially is with Northport's initiative with SmartPass, which allows students to use a digital hall pass and provides accountability for where students are when they are outside of the classroom. That integration with the vaping detection system can provide some really actionable data for administrators in real time. And then, of course, identify trends as well that will allow them to be more responsive to issues that are occurring on their campus. So how does Verkada and SmartPass system work together? Students request a digital pass. As they enter the restroom, the sensors are there. They can detect these types of events. The administrators will be alerted. They will have that data to either respond immediately, or they could respond at a time more convenient based on their schedule. And then it gives them a targeted response because they know who is out of class, when they were out of class, and they know even to the point of what restrooms they should have been going to. So the data is really, really detailed. And so if a student says, I'm going to restroom A and is found over in restroom C, that administrator can have that data and those conversations for corrective action based on this whole digital system. So we're really encouraged about the two systems working together. So that is essentially a summation of what the pilot will look like. So today you will have this on your discussion item to talk more about and ask questions at that point, or Madam Chair, whatever you like. But that does conclude my report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Connor. Seeing no, I know that will be a discussion item on our agenda, so if there are further discussion that the board wants to go forward with, we can do it at that time. We'll move now into, excuse me, the hearing of citizens. So welcome to the first hearing of citizens segment of our meeting. This time is for public comment on specific agenda items. Each speaker will state their full name and county of residence for the record, and will have up to 3 minutes. A timer will signal when 1 minute remains. Please conclude promptly when the timer ends. Respect for divergent opinions shall be recognized for all speakers. Audience members are requested to listen quietly and respectfully. Outbursts, applause, or other interruptions that disrupt the meeting will not be tolerated. Any person that interferes with the expeditious or orderly process of this meeting after first being warned that such continued interference will result in a removal will be removed, but we won't have that today. There are speakers, and actually I don't know if this applies here, so as a reminder, recording cannot be played during your 3 minutes of public comment. We appreciate your cooperation, and we will begin with the first speaker. Excuse me if I can't read sometimes handwriting, but the first one is, I believe, Ron Springman, and then Megan Tenneman.
Can I go to this chair?
I believe so, yes, sir. Oh, is that, thank you.
Ron Springman, proud parent of 2 Pineview honor students. Addressing 853 and 860, mentioning policy 2.22, and 2.24 regarding how public comments are compiled, archived, and released for public viewing. At last month's board meeting on May 19th, I was the first speaker, and I addressed why Bridget Ziegler should not be re-elected. On the YouTube live stream upload, 6 seconds of my comments between 122 and 128 were deleted. Those records described Ziegler's three-way sexual relationship with another woman who accused Christian Ziegler of rape. I immediately contacted Communications Director Craig Merdiglia, both telephonically and by email, who claimed YouTube automatically edits sexually explicit content. However, after extensive communication with YouTube, Google, and Alphabet, I learned YouTube never selectively edits a video for content. If there is a violation, they delete the entire video with no exceptions. Only the account originator of the district can alter uploaded content, and my 6-second comment would not trigger any offensive content filters. This leaves us with a troubling reality. Either a district official altered the record, a flagrant violation of Florida Sunshine Law, or the video was hacked and edited by an outside party. I suggest it could be micro-targeted media, a software technology company which has the ability to hack, owned by none other than Christian Ziegler, the husband of Bridget Ziegler. To resolve this, I am asking the board to take a vote on the following actions. 1, conduct an internal investigation into the Sunshine Law and First Amendment violation. 2, direct the superintendent and board attorney to report this digital tampering to the Florida State Attorney's Office for criminal investigation. If this board fails to pursue this matter, voters will recognize a severe bias and replace the partisan members in the next election. We need leaders who care about public records and First Amendment rights. I also call on Sarasota County voters who care about our schools to vote out the 3 millionaire members who support using public funds for private school vouchers, especially the rich like the Zieglers. We need representatives who will ensure public education for all students and the board members who ensure all public materials are properly maintained under policies 2.22 and 2.24. Lastly, to see for themselves, I ask all voters to view last month's board meeting. To find it on YouTube, search Sarasota County Board Meetings for 2026. Find the May 19th video, skip to my public speaking where 6 seconds were cut, and the final 5 minutes to see Bridget's rant trying to bolster her image, as well as Rose and Marinelli.
Thank you. I'm not sure how that addressed an agenda item, but we'll let it slide. Ms. Megan Tenneman and Kennedy Cole.
Good morning. My name is Megan Tenneman, and I am a Sarasota County resident. I'm here to speak on agenda item 8.45, the approval of the 5-year educational plant survey. Throughout the past year, our families have been told that schools would close, be repurposed, or relocated. When schools like Wilkinson and Polytech were threatened, students, teachers, and parents rallied together and made their voices heard. And I commend this board and superintendent for the swift action that ultimately saved those schools from closure and relocation. For a few weeks, our families celebrated. Then we learned about staff layoffs. We saw PowerPoints and graphs highlighting declining enrollment, and many in our community were left asking one question: why? The answer comes back to transparency. Our community deserves clear, accessible information when it concerns the schools our children attend. We should not have to navigate dozens of pages of technical reports and legal language to understand decisions that directly affect our families. We deserve to know which schools may be closed, may be considered for closure, repurposing, or significant changes before those decisions are made. We should not learn that Wilkinson may be closing from a newspaper article. We should not have to drive past Fruitville Elementary and see Building 5 being demolished to discover that the school is losing an entire building. Many current families have reached out asking what the plan is for that space. Likewise, we should not have to search through lengthy reports to learn that Garden Elementary is not recommended for continued use, nor should we be left wondering whether that means renovation, repurposing, or closure. Schools are more than buildings. They are communities, they are safe places for children, they are centers for learning, collaboration, and connection. This year alone, we have seen staff layoffs, school reconfigurations, and elementary schools transition from K-5 to K-8 models. While I appreciate everything this board has done to keep our schools open, there will never be a time when every school in this district is operating at perfect capacity. What our community is asking for is simple: clear access to information, and meaningful conversation before action is taken. Remove the confusing language, be open about proposed changes. Families should not have to dig through complex documents to understand what may happen to their neighborhood schools. No parent or guardian should have to wonder what next year will look like for their child, and no student should have to wonder whether or not their school will still be open when they return. Thank you.
Thank you. Kennedy Cole and then Sebastian Gersel.
Good morning. My name is Kennedy Cole. I'm the student body president of Booker High School and a proud resident of Sarasota County. I'm here to speak on agenda item 8.15 pertaining to the Human Resources Report. While this agenda item may seem just like business as usual, the reality is that it's the tip of the iceberg in a year of budget cuts and staffing shortages. Let's take my school, Booker, as an example. Booker is losing 6 teaching positions in addition to several report positions as a result of these cuts. Some of these losses are reflected in this very report, but I want you guys to hear about some human examples. This year, we're losing 2 more security guards, leaving 2 security guards to police a school of 1,700 people. But beyond that, one of the cuts is a guard I met this year. It's his first year at the school. He goes out of his way every single day to greet students as they come into school. He chaperones field trips. He does extra work. He's losing his job. We lost a new science teacher this year, a science teacher who came to this district to work with her best friend. Her friend's going to be here next year. She won't. We're losing a counseling position created specifically to help students like me in the VPA, ACE, and Law Academy programs with their accelerated studies. That counselor is being forced to teach in a classroom for her first time in over 5 years just so she can skate by to 3 more years until she can retire. While these positions have been lost, it's also important to note some of the soft layoffs that don't come in these types of reports. Layoffs of people like our visual and performing arts aide, who is now down to a part-time position from a full-time position. She's taking the summer to evaluate if she can continue in her position because she might not be able to afford it. Or people like our library aide, who was reassigned from Booker all the way to Northport despite her living in Manatee County, something the district knows. She could not take that job in Northport, and that's another position loss. And that's more talent out of our school district. Beyond these losses, the morale at our school is plummeting. I've heard well over a dozen teachers that tell me they are seriously considering leaving this district because of budget cuts and noise coming from this boardroom that drowns out the job they love to do in the classroom. This board and how they support our schools and how they are a fiduciary of our taxpayer funds is broken. The good news, we have a solution coming in August. Support our teachers and vote for a better board. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Sebastian Gersel and Michelle Posey.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Sebastian Gerstel, Sarasota County, and a graduate of Riverview High School. I just wanted to talk on the 5-year capital improvement plan and take a couple of seconds of our time to also thank the amazing team behind it. As the chairman of the Oversight Committee for Schools Facility Planning, I have the opportunity to work with that team, and I've gotten to know them over the past year. And they do a phenomenal job leading this district forward. And no one's going to try to pretend as if it's not challenging times, but it's challenging times that will result in results that are best for our students and our teachers. And they are a big part of that. So I just wanted to give them some appreciation, some support, because they do a really tough job, but they do it really, really well for all of our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Michelle Posey and then Debbie Blackwell.
Hi, Michelle Posey. Welcome to Northport. It was really wonderful to have a 7-minute commute today, so thank you for coming down here. I wanted to discuss some things that are on the agenda, including some of the academic successes that I think we should celebrate. 8.1 is one that struck me because it's a renewal. It's been in the district for a while. So this is a research and evidence-based program that helps those that are later in their learning career still not give up on them. We want to make sure they still have every chance to achieve in reading, and that is the HMH 180. Again, this is research-based. I love this. This will primarily work for those in grades 6 through 10, and we know that children through grades 1 through 3, they learn to read. but then in 4 and up, they read to learn. So if we give up on them in this reading criteria, they kind of don't have a chance after graduation. So I'm glad to see us renewing this. I think that part of what the audience needs to know today is that in reaching out to even the company, they show that within a year and a half, that you can gain a year and a half to 2 years of achievement in just 1 year of using this program. So I think it's pretty amazing. Also, HMH 180, I don't know if the board knows, but they're looking into also sort of reverse engineering the program. So think about if we know our grades 6 through 10, where their gaps were in reading, and we can go back and fix that at the elementary level. So I think that'll be kind of fun to see coming out. Excited to see that all of the contracts that deal with behavioral care also require a daily, weekly, and monthly update for parents. Because as a parent, I can congratulate educators in helping me actually sometimes become a better parent. So I think we owe it to that olive branch to parents to try to help them become a part of the equation. And lastly, this teen court contract. This is amazing. A lot of it happens right here in this building. I want to give a shout out to Dawn Clayton and her team. This is wildly effective, guys. Even our Department of Justice has said that about 90% of students who go through some sort of teen court program, some kind of peer-led initiative, end up not having another offense. This is almost like taking peer pressure and using it for the reverse effect, because when you have to answer to your peers for your behavior on the alternate side of something, it almost makes you think about it again. So I'm grateful that our district is leading the way, and I thank you for standing firm with parent involvement. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next is Debbie Blackwell and then Teresa DeWitt.
Good morning. My name is Debbie Blackwell, a registered voter and a Northport resident. My grandchildren attend Sarasota County Public Schools, and I taught in public schools for 44 years in the classroom. I'm addressing English as second language. Welcome to neighborly Northport, being the largest city in Sarasota County and has the highest population in Sarasota County of 85,099 people, as compared to Sarasota having 57,000. 5,000 are Ukrainian and 10,000 Hispanic. It takes people in Northport 28 minutes to drive to work on average, and 80% own their home versus 56% in Sarasota City. 6,027 people are veterans. Northport's median age is 48. Now, on my street, there are bilingual elementary kids that speak Polish, Serbian, Spanish, and Ukrainian Russian. It is so cool. Now, the greatest public education system in the world is the United States public education system. I believe in it so much, you can't believe how much. I believe in public education, more than Thomas Jefferson. Now, most schools have a nurse on the campus in addition to teaching children that might have any special needs, physically or cognitively. And those kids, too, can be bilingual. To be an English speaker and Serbian, Russian, Polish, or Spanish speaker, I find it's very important that the paradigm be switched to TAD in Sarasota County from ESL being the burden to here is where I surmise that we have here in Northport the most bilingual student graduates in the county. And I would love to have more data on that, but that's what I'm pretty sure of. So that's why changing the paradigm is important. Celebrate Northport High School as having the most bilingual students. That is so cool. Do you know that? And that we are proud that a very high percentage of high school graduates are bilingual. I would love to be bilingual. In an attitude that comes from the very top by rewarding and honoring teachers that teach this high percentage of bilingual students. Northport High School has something to celebrate. Now, it's time for you to acknowledge that and by shedding the condescending, dismissive attitude towards Northport, and it exists. Perhaps you should shed that attitude, should have shed it in September when the kids were talking to you about the vaping, and it wasn't addressed immediately, and then there was violence that occurred because it not being addressed. So students warned of the trouble. Ask the bilingual students, talk to the kids. They have answers. And see what they need. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Teresa DeWitt and Beth Mayberry.
Thank you, everyone. I'm Teresa DeWitt, and I live up in Sarasota. So I've been spoiled with all of our meetings up in Sarasota, but I do appreciate you guys having one down here. So I want to address 8.5 on curriculum and instruction. I'm just going to read from here on recess. Each student in kindergarten through grade 5 shall be provided at least 100 minutes of supervised, safe, and unstructured free play recess each week so that there is at least 20 consecutive minutes of free play recess per day. So when you say at least 20 consecutive minutes of free play, do the principals have the freedom to extend the 20 minutes? I've been discussing the importance of recess for years. Recess is very important to get energy out and reduce behavioral issues. As a previous preschool owner, I extended recess beyond the 30 minutes the Department of Social Services required. I also brought art classes and reading classes outside. Parents across this district want more recess. As I've spoken across the county, it seems to be a simple ask, but you guys are the decision makers on this. I believe this is an easy win for everyone, every decision maker in this room. Mr. Connor, we have discussed needing an aggressive marketing plan to retain students, and what a great way to start the next school year. Now, on one of my questions, does the local school board have authority to extend the recess time? I will point out the state of Oklahoma, my state, just extended elementary recess to 40 minutes. Lastly, I would like to know how much free outside time do students above 5th grade get? Let's make our smallest students happy and extend recess time. Now, lastly, Mr. Connor, I did not see the track for Philippi Shores on the agenda today that the PTO raised dollars for. Can we get an update on this? I believe I spoke on that last time. And I have minutes left, so I'm going to go ahead and address this. My children are 9 years old. They've been coming to this boardroom for years. We had to step outside this boardroom because these meetings became rated R. Board members here have allowed citizens to come in here and talk about things that my 9-year-olds don't even know exist. You are here. You were voted in. $1.5 billion for students. Everyone's working 1 to 2 jobs in this district to make sure that our students get the best education. Leadership in this room dictates what else happens in the local schools. We have to come to a decision with this board, whether we're going to allow language like that and discussions like that, or we are going to my children will not be allowed back in this boardroom. It is unacceptable, and we have avenues and tools in place that we can stop this kind of language in here. All of you need to step up, and you need to do something about some of the content that's being discussed in here. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Beth Mayberry and Jimmy Glover.
Hello, Beth Mayberry, Northport resident and full disclosure candidate for Sarasota County School Board election August 18th. I want to speak to several of the consent agenda items, but first I want to thank the board for taking the time to come to Northport. While 22% of our students in our public schools live here, we haven't had a strong local voice on the board for more than 35 years. That will end this August, so I'm happy to see you here in my home city. I want to address agenda items 8.3, 8.6, 8.7, 8.8 first, as these all have to do with offering services for mental health and behavioral therapies. I commend the board for continuing these services and urge them to continue to look for ways to expand mental health services and behavioral therapy to more students, as our schools are seeing more behavior disruptions and more mental health issues that prevent learning in our students. I also want to thank them for agenda items 8.4 and 8.5, putting in place some caring adults to help some of our more vulnerable students. We also should be expanding our efforts in this arena as we have a much bigger need for mentors, tutors, and hands-on help in our classrooms than we ever did, as our budget is squeezed ever tighter. Next, I did want to question agenda item 8.1, the HMH Read 100, specifically as to the shipping and handling costs of over $53,000. That seems excessive to me. Even though I can see it's a large number of books, I'd be interested in seeing what the actual weight is to determine if this is fair. It seems like 8% of the total cost of the contract for shipping and handling might be a tad pricey. And lastly, among all the revisions being advertised for agenda item 8.60, I would caution the board to make a strong effort, not just to comply with the law to advertise, but to make a concerted effort to reach every parent in every school to be sure they understand and weigh in on the policy, to avoid some of the chaos we've seen in the past with policies that were not transparent enough. Perhaps this would allow more parents to contact the school board and give them an idea of unintended consequences or direct pushbacks on the policy before it's voted on and in place. We need to keep our children safe, but hearing the issues from the parents, students, and staff before voting, and possibly updating the policy prior to voting, would help these constituents be more supportive and compliant with that policy. Again, thank you for your efforts today and every day to keep our children safe, engaged, and learning.
Thank you very much. And finally, last speaker is Jimmy Glover.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jimmy Glover, resident of Newtown and a candidate for Sarasota County School Board. Today, I just want to briefly address the superintendent's financial reports for January and February. Over the past several months, I spent a great deal of time listening to teachers, staff, and community members across Sarasota County. One concern I hear repeatedly is the perception that our district has become top-heavy. I'm not here tonight to make accusations. I'm here to say that these concerns are being voiced across our district, and they deserve thoughtful answers. Teachers are asking why workloads continue to increase, why resources often feel stretched in the classroom, and how staffing decisions are made. Staff members are asking how priorities are set, whether resources are reaching their places, and where they can have their greatest impact on students. And those are fair questions. Public education works best when people are doing the work, understand the priorities, and have the confidence in the decisions that are being made on their behalf. A budget is a mirror. It reflects our priorities. If the people closest to the students do not see themselves in that reflection, then we have an obligation to ask why. I've listened to our teachers and staff. They're not asking for special treatment. They're asking for clarity. They want to know that every position, every expenditure, and every decision is helping us serve the students. That's a reasonable expectation. Trust is built when people understand not just when decisions are made, but why they are made. When teachers and staff begin asking how our spending decisions support the classroom, we should not view that as criticism. We should view it as an invitation to communicate better. Every line budget should be able to answer one question. How does this make life better for the student or easier for the people that serve the student? I'm asking for this simple question. Connect every spending decision back to the students and the people who serve them. Because when people cannot see the priorities in the budget, they begin to question the priorities in the institution themselves. Thank you.
Thank you, and that concludes public comment. We will move on to the consent agenda. First, I need an approval for the minutes. Is there, on item 6.1, is there a motion?
I move to approve the minutes for May 19th, 2026, and our monthly work session, June 2nd, 2026.
I have a motion by Mrs. Barker. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second by Mrs. Marinelli. Are there any comments? Seeing none, please vote on the motion before you, which is item 6.1. And the motion to approve the minutes for the work session and the May 19th board meeting passes unanimously. Moving on to the approval of the consent agenda. Is there a motion on item 7.1?
Move for approval of the consent agenda.
I have a motion by Mrs. Rose. Is there a second? Second. I have a second by Mrs. Barker. Are there any comments? I have a few comments just because I wanted to address some of the things that were mentioned during public comment. So I really have to commend everyone for really diving into our agenda. I think it's great to see an engaged community. I think that is an asset that many other districts or communities don't have. So I applaud all of you for not only showing up, but doing the research. I do want to address some of the items. In particular, I know that there was a comment on the personnel report, and I also know, in addition to the items, some of the policies that we're presenting today that were going out for advertisement, I just want to quickly address some of those issues. So back in many of you may know this, but I'm just going to report it for the record. Back in 21, in many districts across the country were uniquely positioned because they had an influx of money from the federal government. Mrs. Rose and I were serving on that board as well as Mr. Edwards at that time. Dr. Asplin, was the superintendent at the time, and I believe it was the June board meeting of 2021 that he had presented a plethora of additional positions that would be funded by his own terminology by temporary funding under the CARES Act. There were a few other tranches that got brought forward to the board, and this is not unique to Sarasota County, but I do want to address this because this is important. So again, as you read through I think the historical components really do matter. But to understand that many of these positions that we unfortunately have to get rid of are right-sizing the district and to align to the actual budget, not only just the enrollment, but the reduction of those one-time occurring funds. Because we understand there are lives that are attached to these positions and not something we take lightly by any measure. It's unfortunate that these positions, and for the record, I know Mrs. Rose did not support them, I did not support them, because of the funding component, the lack of trajectory and 5-year planning of how you sustain that. It's not sustainable, which is why when Mr. Connor came in, he had a 2-year process of right-sizing the district to align with the enrollment, but also to tailor those fundings based on what we specifically needed. We emphasized our reading programs, and I believe our academic outcomes, not only from last year, but I presume this year, will illustrate that focus was tailored specifically on what these students need. In addition to the ESD components, that there was a number of elements that were a massive deficit and there were major failures, and there was a lot of emphasis on that. And so I don't take it lightly, and I don't believe anyone on this board takes it lightly when we have to make those difficult decisions and approve over a course of time removal of positions. And I understand there are that's someone's livelihood. There's real impact to that, but I have to go back to explain to you from a trajectory of that. There are real impacts on the votes that we take. And so for that reason, I appreciate that my board supported my recommendation of creating a policy that would allow that anytime any position is funded by non-recurring funding, that acknowledgement is proposed to that employee, and they have to sign that so they know that it's sunset at some point. Because it's not fair if they start planning their lives around something that maybe only has a tail of 3 years, 5 years, etc. So while no job is per se guaranteed, it is important that part be very transparent, and I want to make sure that that's very clear to the members in this room, but certainly to the members who spoke to the items before you, so that you have a full grasp of what actually took place and why we are where we are today, but not only that we are remedying it through a policy. I also wanted to address the speaker, one of the speakers on the public comment. I can respect that there are a number of colorful comments that have taken place not only in these chambers when we're here, I suppose, but also up at the landings. And but I believe that there has been a very strong ruling from the 11th Circuit. I believe there was a ruling, and Mr. Duggan can remind me what county it was. But that really, and it's something I have personally stood by, regardless of being probably the one that took most of the attacks, that the high bar is there unless there is a specific profanity and actual threatening nature, that the bar is very high. And so I recognize there are young ears in here. I know that was an issue across the country when certain books were read that were available in libraries, that people would be shut down. The irony is not lost on me, but for that reason, I want to make it very clear that we do have a high threshold here when it comes to the First Amendment. And so as someone chooses to use their language as they so choose, which may or may not have any relevance, we do allow that. So I just wanted to address that. If there are no additional comments, I will take a vote on the item. Mr. Duggan? Mrs. Rose, sorry, I'm still learning how to use this. Go ahead.
That's okay. I want to thank you, Madam Chair, for bringing up the pieces on the CARES Act and the positions. That was well said, and it's not something that we can count on the media to share with the community, so I hope that's able to circulate out there. I have a little different take on public comment, having been a teacher and principal in our district for so many years, and the fact that we serve primarily children and families. And I know that Speaker Teresa DeWitt made comments on this, and I want to say I wholeheartedly agree with her from a professional standpoint, and having served children and families for so many years. The comments that are made are extraordinarily inappropriate. And I'm not sure if the case that you were referring to was the Moms for Liberty case. I read that so many times, and I saw it a little differently. I saw that, you know, there's potential that if we had policies and procedures in place, that we might be able to tighten up having sideshows, and I'm going to call them that, with partisan bias, unacceptable to children and families' interest. I would call on this board to look to see if that's something that we could put in a workshop, because I believe that our legal counsel could serve us better. And I wholeheartedly believe that in that capacity. I would like to see this board go forward with a much more professional environment focused on the mission and not on partisan bias, inappropriate politics that they like to blame on others. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. Are there any more? Mr. Edwards.
Perception is reality. So I want to go back to that June 21, I guess, meeting that Mrs. Ziegler referenced. I did vote to add the staff, and the discussion was we were adding behavioral specialists, we were adding literacy specialists. These were critical places that our school district's data was showing needed additional support. At that meeting, it was discussed that the positions would be reevaluated on an as-needed basis, meaning if there are positions available in other areas that don't have the same kind of impact as a behavioral specialist or a literacy specialist, those positions would be eliminated. Unfortunately, the person who had set up that system was in fact Dr. Asplin, and he was dismissed. He left with the Dakota ring, and so what was left was a lot of cleanup. But I will respond to say two things. One, we still heavily invest in literacy. We still heavily invest in behavior. So those chips on the table to find out if it works, worked. Secondly, from our last meeting, I believe our superintendent discussed that we had 180 positions that had not been renewed. In my last meeting with the superintendent, which was last Tuesday, I asked how many are remaining. We're down to 70. And so 61 even better. So what I want to point out is that lots of politics get thrown around in this boardroom, and I don't always have to respond. But in this particular case, I wanted the school district to really take the good ground. They've been working hard and will restore the positions that have the highest impact to our students' academic achievement.
Thank you. Well, and I don't know that was a direct attack, so I don't know why it doesn't need to be taken that way. I just wanted for the members of the community to understand the actual procedural processes that took place, the uniqueness of that moment, and while it can appear that it's that there's mismanagement, as was noted, or I may be using that phrase, when it comes to the budgetary process, it's anything but. It's having the long-term trajectory of understanding those impacts, which was the actual discussion that took place in that 2021 meeting. But I think that historical components do matter. So with that, there are no additional comments. I will take a vote on the, members, you can vote on the screen before you on the consent agenda. And the motion to approve the consent agenda passes unanimously. Moving on to the next item is item 9.1, Student Code of Conduct. Mr. Connor, could you please present this item?
Board members, this item begins our annual process for reviewing the Student Code of Conduct for the upcoming school year. It is our framework for establishing student expectations, making sure that we have outlined responsibilities of our disciplinary procedures, and making sure that our schools remain safe campuses across the county. So each year, the district staff reviews this document. They bring in several committees from the community members, from our internal staff, teachers, Several committees work together to propose any revisions. We also make sure that we're in alignment with state law, any district policies that may be revised. And today, we're not asking the board to vote on adopting the student code of conduct. We're asking you to vote on the advertisement. That is a 28-day public period now that we will enter in, and the public will be able to provide us even more feedback. And any feedback that we take from that, we can incorporate into the final adoption of the student code of conduct, which will come to you in the next board meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. Is there a motion on the item?
I move for approval to advertise for community input of the Code of Student Conduct for the 2026-2027 school year.
I have a motion by Mrs. Rose. Is there a second?
Second.
Oh, you guys keep tying. I have a tie by Mrs. Barker, a tie. A second by Mrs. Barker. Are there any comments? Mrs. Barker and then Mr. Rose. Mr. Rose. Mr. Edwards, I apologize. Mrs. Barker.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to share how grateful I am to Dr. Clayton and her team for continually working on this student code of conduct. And as you know, in my professional experience as a school psychologist, this is a core document that we use. And what I found in working through this process every year is that this code of conduct is one of the best I've seen. Not just in the state of Florida, but truly it's a model of evidence-based, progressive, student-centered discipline. And so I commend Dr. Hutchinson, Dr. Clayton, and all the professionals who've worked so hard to make that happen. And I look forward to hearing what our families have to say about it too.
Thank you, Mrs. Barker. Mr. Edwards.
I agree with what Mrs. Barker just said, but I'm going to ask the superintendent to spell out a little piece of the student code of conduct that describes a violation of a student caught in the restroom where an individual has a vape. Only one person is vaping, yet 6 or 7 may be part of that group. Could you elaborate on that for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do have codes for students not being in their assigned area. And so if you are in a bathroom and you are not conducting your business in the bathroom appropriately, that could in turn be a violation of you being out of your assigned area. Now, we could also, administrators are very good in their investigative processes to know if students are participating in prohibitive activities such as vaping. So that could escalate if you are part of a group. You may not necessarily be the one vaping, or you are participating. We will use that process to determine exactly what level of offense is occurring. Those are indicated in our code of conduct, whether it be vaping violation, being out of your assigned area, or participating in prohibited activity. And then the administrators will then have the tools and resources to determine what those corrective actions and disciplinary actions will be. The good thing about what I love about our student code of conduct, is it perfect? By no means, right? Teachers are always providing us very good, valuable feedback on how to improve it because they are on the front lines. But one of the things that I heard coming in very early into my tenure here was the inconsistency of how we apply corrective action across the district. One school does this, another school does that, right? And so we put in a matrix, and a matrix doesn't box necessarily a school administrator in necessarily, but it provides a roadmap of how we progressively discipline. There's 2 ways of handling it, right? There's the hammer, which you don't want to always do for small infractions. You can't go up to the extreme. And then, of course, you don't want to be so easy on an action or a disciplinary action that it doesn't really hold any weight for a student. The matrix is designed based on the number of offenses to progressively move student towards heavier consequences so that that corrective action can be there. Now, we are in our 3rd year of implementation with that. Like anything else, it takes time to implement a cultural shift. Where there was no matrix, now there's been a matrix. And so I think we're beginning to see more consistency district-wide around the application of that. But going back to your point, not to dovetail, yes, there is definitely the ability to identify appropriate actions for students who are hanging around or in a wrong area where students may be vaping for sure.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. And I know that it's just advertising, but I'm going to ask you to do the same thing again when we pass the policy, because I can't stress enough to students, especially the DeFi students and the public commenter. I heard those cries that September, and I have asked and asked and asked, and we are here today with solutions, and it's embedded into the student code of conduct. And it's important that students who speak to board members hear that we hear them and we make changes.
Thank you very much. I also want to thank Dr. Clayton. I know Dr. Hutchinson and team have done a lot of work in this over the last couple of years, and I would echo what Mrs. Barker said. I think I've seen it over multiple iterations, and to me, I feel it is the strongest it's been, and is always moving to improvement, to align with additional policies that we're responding to. Not only are we talking about addressing the vaping, I know that there were some additional policies when it came to student disruptions and how to deal with that, and I think it does a great job of being clear and concise, and then also I know embedded in that, and at least in the conversations that I've had with staff and Mr. Connor, is that how using this can also be utilized as a mechanism to support our staff so that they understand how to apply it equally across the board, and so that it's not just open to interpretation, which is again the goal. So appreciate the work, and if there are no additional comments, members, please vote. I think I lost where I'm supposed to go. Vote on the item before you. Oh. I'm down there. Sorry. And the motion passes unanimously. Moving on to item 9.2 is the new and revised job descriptions. Mr. Connor, can you please present these items?
Yes, Madam Chair. This item requests the approval of several of our new job descriptions or revised to support our district operations. You know, in an era of continuous improvement, it's always important for each year at this time to look at our organizational structure, make sure that our position responsibilities are aligned to the current needs of our strategic plan, our legal requirements, and making sure that we are always out in front with industry best practice. And so I brought a few job descriptions to clarify expectations and make sure that they're appropriately aligned to our current needs. So each of these items will address areas such as talent acquisition, the employee experience, labor relations, professional standards, as well as school safety training officer, as well as digital communications. So I bring these for your approval. I do want to make a comment, as I heard in the public comments around district administration. I want to be very clear. So we just released our organizational chart right before our teachers left for the summer. We took a very, very strategic approach to ensure that not one particular job category took the brunt of any of these reductions. And so in that org chart, I detail a breakdown of what that looks like in terms of district administrators, school-based administrators, instructional personnel, and our classified support. And when you look at that breakdown, and there are 100 going into the 26-27 school year, there are 130 district administrators, which is down 36 positions since the summer of 25. That's a 22% decrease. We have cut nearly 1/4 of our district administrative staff during this time. And I know that the public is not necessarily aware of that. And I want to be clear, when you look at our instructional, as much as we don't want to make any reductions, right? It's always hard because every position was put in place for a specific purpose to meet a specific need. And when you have to make those reductions, it is very difficult because it impacts not only the services that we provide at the school and the district level, but also impacts the people who are involved and who sit in those positions. But at those particular categories, we're looking at a 7% reduction over that course of this last year. So 3 times as many reductions proportionately. Our district administrators make up 2% of our entire cohort of staff, 2%. So cutting 1/4 of that really impacts, for me, the level of the service delivery and operational service delivery that we in our community expects to have, because these administrators are working round the clock. And so I just want to be clear that while all of these cuts are very, very near and dear to all of our hearts, and we know that they meet those specific needs. I was not going to end this cycle of reductions without making sure that the district bore the brunt of that. So 22% district administrators. We did at the school base, we added 3 assistant principals. That is because we are opening up Welland Park High School. So we shifted people from other schools. We made as many of those accommodations to work within the staff allocations that we currently have, but there was a need there. We will have 123 school-based administrators. So those are principals and assistant principals. And that represents, again, 2% of our entire cohort. So when you take school-based administrators, you take district administrators, that number represents 4% of our entire cohort. And they've all seen reductions with the exception of our school-based administrators because of the new Welland Park addition. So I just wanted to be able to make sure I clarified that, and I propose these revised job descriptions to the board.
Thank you, Mr. Connor, and I appreciate you mentioning that. I know back, I want to say it was March or April, and for the members of the community that specifically, well, to anyone, but those who spoke again about this, I want to make sure it's clear that there was a very comprehensive, I want to say it was a 10-year analysis that would showcase the amount and percentage, not just the unit amount or the financial amount, but the percentage amount. So there is a baseline of a comparison. When you look at administration cost, school-based administration, central office administration, support staff, and then instructional staff, that is very important when you're talking about bloated or top-heavy organizational structures. So I encourage you guys to look at that so you understand deeply what is being done. At the same time, as much as you'll hear people talk about how many supports we need when it comes to security or mental health or all of those components, those all get piled into administrative numbers, just so you know. When you look at these macro charts on social media across the country, and they show the disparities between cost of how many classroom staff versus administration. It depends. The proof is in how are they aggregating that. And so for that reason, I think the way we did it, it's very clear. I encourage you to look at it so you have verifiable information and not just talking points, because quality of information is important, particularly when you're speaking to the public. So I just would encourage that as well. Oh, and there was one more thing since we're on this piece. When it comes to, just so as we look at all the changes that have been made, in addition to the, and I always butcher this, Mr. Connor, but the future-focused strategic initiative, and it looks at what decisions are being made at the district level. That is all available on our website, and it's very, very comprehensive. And I believe it's very user-friendly. It doesn't have any jargon, and I don't think there's multiple pages you have to go through. So for anyone who wants that clarity, I highly encourage you to take a look at that. And I believe our social media team has regularly put that out, but I'm sure we could encourage them to put that out just to make sure that everyone's on the same page about what's happening. So if there are no additional comments, Mrs. Rose, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think it's important to recognize Superintendent Connor for the cuts in administrative staff. I know that's not easy, but it is well received by the board and the community as well, given all the circumstances. But I think it's important to also recognize, in my perception, having been part of the school system for 30 plus years, worked for or provided oversight to 8, 9 superintendents, that the systems that you have put in place at the district office, in my opinion, strongly believe that's what's enabled you to make these cuts. The systems previously, for 7, 8 years prior to your tenure, were so loose and reflected in the academic achievement progress, and your systems are so tight. It is a well-oiled machine, and I think that my statements will be backed up with the academic achievement that's going to come out. But that doesn't happen randomly. It happens by all of the departments departments working together in sync with a common mission, and someone providing, Superintendent Connor, providing oversight from up here and making sure that every tweak that needs to occur for the business that we are in, which is academic achievement. So I thank you for that, and I'm sure in due time the community will be recognizing those moves. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Rose. Mrs. Barker.
Thank you, Chair. I also, I just wanted to point out this role of supervisor of professional standards. This is something I've been in conversation with Mr. Connor about, and I really appreciate that in a spirit of continuous improvement, we are working to ensure that investigations and hiring and all the people that we have that are interacting with children are at their best. And so I think that this move and this focus is necessary and warranted, and I am very grateful for it. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Mrs. Barker, I'm really glad you mentioned that one. That's a big one. We talked about that at the last workshop, and just in that, for those who weren't there, I couldn't agree more. Mr. Connor, I know that going even what Mrs. Rose just mentioned and the systems or lack thereof that existed for years prior have been put in place, and I know that this is an area that that opportunity exists. And no different than the matrix that I feel like we're finding is very successful and fruitful when it comes to the student code of conduct. I think that the professional standards, and as we look at how we move forward with investigations at the school level versus moving up in that severity, as we develop that, is something I look forward to seeing. But I believe that this is the right move forward and will benefit every layer of this district to continue to thrive. So thank you so very much. If there are no additional comments, members, please vote on the item before you. And the motion to approve new and revised job descriptions passes unanimously. We're moving on to item 9.3, contract with Driven Security. Mr. Connor, can you please present this item?
Yes, Board. This item is going back to my superintendent's report. Provided an overview of the Driven security system powered by Verkada. It is going to be a pilot at Northport High School. We've worked very closely with the team to walk the campus, do a site assessment, to identify the infrastructure needs for that, and then of course how that will be implemented from a day-to-day schedule with the existing SmartPass system. So I'm very excited about the leadership at Northport High School being able to be the proof of concept here, which I know they'll be very successful, especially with the DeFi group behind them and supporting them. I always say we get a lot of indicators of vaping through our Florida 5 Florida that mostly comes out of Northport. We see our Florida 5 Florida data. We do see a major increase at Northport, but it is because we have a very active group who are showing that they care about this particular issue. And so we want to come in and support them with the latest technology, and I'll open it up for discussion, but I do ask for your approval for this proof of concept.
Thank you very much. I know I have members ready to speak, but first we're just going to start getting in the right posture. Is there a motion for item 9.3?
I move to approve the purchase materials and or services from the cooperative contract with Driven Security for the Verkada system.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Barker. I have a motion by Mrs. Barker. Is there a second? Second. I have a second by Mrs. Marinelli. And Mrs. Barker, you're recognized.
Thank you. Thank you. This is something I'm very excited about. When I had the opportunity to meet with the DeFi students, it's been quite a while now, but that immediately sort of put me on this trajectory of wanting to know how can we make these students' vision a reality. And I am so grateful that all of you here worked shoulder to shoulder with us on that, and to Mr. Connor and his team and Dr. Green, thank you so much for working so hard to make this happen. I'm very excited. I do want to point out for the public, because obviously no one has $170,000 just lying around. So I want to make sure that we're very clear that the vast majority of these funds are coming from our capital budget, which are funds that we are not permitted to use for teacher salaries or anything like that. They're absolutely just for maintenance and for building those kinds of things. So I want you to know where that money's coming from and what that looks like. But I'm thrilled to see how this works. I really am very hopeful that it will make a big difference for our kids. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Mr. Edwards.
So I also, as was pointed out, this journey today for this work started for me in that September town hall when we heard from the DeFi kids. I also want to add that I would say about 90 or 120 days ago, there was a group of STAR leadership students who also came to speak to school board members, and the majority of those students that day were also Northport students, and once again had the ear of the school board. From there, I want to say that unfortunately, the school board gets distracted, as I've said several times over and over again, through a discrimination policy, the student protest policy, moving the meeting times, the ICE resolution, all of those kinds of things that just suck up the oxygen that happens in a boardroom when something as important as being in Northport, which I've asked for, and hope that we can continue this on a more regular basis. And my point is that I still want the students, all students, to know that when they reach out to the school board with issues that are important, we hear them. It just sometimes takes a little longer to get it to the point where we'd like to see results, but I promise you, because of the students, because of the care and the concern of our administration, these changes will be made and they'll be successful.
Mrs. Rose.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I haven't been distracted. I think it's important to say that. As a unit, I think that we have had remarkable success under the leadership of Superintendent Connor. I had the distinct experience of meeting with a family who had a direct impact from vaping at a high school in the north that met with myself and Superintendent Connor. And Superintendent Connor committed to a task force at that time. And having kept that focus, we've arrived in a very good place. I also want to recognize Sebastian Gerstel for actually leaving his university and coming back here and really staying engaged in something that you started with that task force and have been an exemplar in that process. So I think that the focus is obvious, and my focus since actually the early 90s, late 80s, has been on academic achievement, and great things are about to happen, which is going to actually frame and highlight the focus of this board. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mrs. Rose. Did you have a comment? Or?
Not yet.
Okay.
Oh,
Well, I will, I'm excited to see this. I will say that we have incredibly competent leadership. And I know that despite the comments that I think were unnecessary and ironically the political comments that were made briefly, that are fully capable of thriving ahead with these big challenges, despite, in addition to all of the other things that are prioritized by elected board members and supported by elected board members and supported by very many members of this community. And so therefore, we're able to thrive ahead and work with what the needs are, which are vast and serious. And I can tell you, while I don't sit there and pat myself on the back like other board members to try to say that it was all about them, I know that many of us have had conversations over the past 2 years plus with the superintendent, particularly when it came to this issue. A lot of it was surrounded around doing it the right way, making the decisions in the right financial way. I can tell you that I was approached by, I think it was Exponse. They had seen what had transpired in Northport and wanted to see if they could help. They put forward an offer to do something, to even put forward a grant to help fund it. But understanding that there are a lot of nuances with it, specifically, and I won't call it Fast Pass because that's not the same thing, I keep doing that. Last Pass, I think there's a lot of opportunity with this that goes beyond the vaping, and I'm very excited. So Dr. Green, thank you so much for your leadership. Mr. Shirley, I think that your leadership going forward is really going to move everything in the right direction, and I know you've hit the ground running, and I really, really appreciate that as well. So all of these things come into play, and I really feel like they're falling in the right place, and it says a lot. And again, all these other things are still moving forward at the same time, so it's not holding anyone back. It actually is just consistently moving us forward, and I want to applaud not only the leadership, but again, Sebastian Gersel and the entire DeFi team. And I know that there are other students in other schools that really have taken notice of that, which, if I recall, when you did that workshop, was showcasing that this could really be a model for other schools, so that when there are leaders in those schools that really can speak up and and collaborate with the appropriate partners, the school administration and other and the superintendent and what have you, that we are able to respond in real time. Again, we can't just click a button very quickly because we have to make sure we're doing it the right way. There's infrastructure, there's long-term strategic looks at it, and I believe that what was presented today hits all of those marks. And so I'm very excited to see this. I'm excited we're able to do this in Northport to make it very clear that we heard you. We do want to see this be resolved, and that leadership shall continue. This is one piece of it that we hope to see it solve those solutions. So unless there are additional comments? Yes, Mrs. Rose.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just one short additional piece. Setting aside the necessary political banner, I think the most important part of this agenda item is the increased health that it will bring to our students and our community at large. In actually framing that with the focus on it will, beyond a shadow of a doubt, have a positive impact on our primary mission, which is academic achievement.
Thank you so much. Mrs. Marinelli, or you have any comments? Are you good? No. Okay, so that will conclude comments on this item, and we will vote on the motion before us for 9.3, contract with Driven Security. And the motion passes unanimously. Moving on to item 9.4, revised master school identification applications. Mr. Connor, can you please present this item?
Yes, Board, this item requests the approval of the master school identification applications that we will be submitting to the Florida Department of Education for 5 of our district schools. As you know, our future-focused strategic initiative is well underway. We are rolling out 4 of our elementary schools into K-8s this year at Wilkinson, Alta Vista, Brentwood, and Gulfgate. So we need to drop the name elementary on those schools, and we need to call them school, like we do with our other K-8s. So just like we have Laurel Nokomis School and Sky Ranch School, which are K-8 schools, these schools will now be called Alta Vista School, Wilkinson School, Brentwood School, and Gulfgate School. And then we have an additional application, which will be a major overhaul of Brookside Middle School. I'm very excited about the magnet program that we are launching there. It is going through a conversion process, rolling up each grade level by over the next 3 years. But we will be moving from Brookside Middle School to Gulf Coast Academy of Innovation and Technology. And so that name change application will be submitted as well, and we will be officially moving forward with that. So I ask for your approval to move these to the DOE.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. Are there any comments?
Yes.
Mrs. Rose.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I couldn't be more excited about moving to K-8 models. I started advocating for those with Superintendent Lori White many years ago and continued with the leadership after Lori's tenure. The feedback was always that it's a costly model relative to a elementary. However, we are in an extraordinary competitive environment, and our families have voiced and actually shown in their actions and their choices that that they want to stay in that smaller community, that they want to stay with their peers that they've been with sometimes from pre-K. So I'm ecstatic to just see that we have K-8s, and I know that the additional cost to run a K-8 school will we will see dollars coming in by increased enrollment and students wanting to stay. So I commend taking that leap, Superintendent Connor, and am happy to support those name changes.
Wonderful, and I apologize, members, but I need to get this in the proper posture. If there's a motion on the item. 9.4.
I move that the Sarasota County School Board approve the master school identification applications that will be sent to the Florida Department of Education.
Thank you, Mrs. Barker. I have a motion by Mrs. Barker. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Thank you, Mrs. Rose. Are there any additional comments? Getting used to it. Mrs. Barker.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I echo Mrs. Rose's comments and her excitement for our K-8s. I also just wanted to peripherally address, because it's also part of the Future Focus initiative, some of the demolitions that are happening right now. I know one of our speakers mentioned the building 5 at Fruitville, and I have also had parents reach out to me about that. If you refer back to when we were speaking about the Future Focus initiative, there were several buildings on our campuses that were not in use and that had needed to be demoed for quite some time, and that is what you're seeing now. That is part of the process. We were showing to the state that we had more capacity than we actually did have for students. So it's really important in this time period where at the state level they're looking at utilization rates and capacity and where can we jam-pack more kids. We need to be sure that we have very accurate information to share with the state, and so that's just part of that process. But I want everyone to be clear that Fruitville is not going anywhere. That building was not being used by students, and this is a good thing moving forward. It'll make our campus safer and more accessible. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Barker. Yes, I would echo that. I drive by that school regularly, and as a former Fruitville parent, I know that had been not used or barely used for years, and so it was time for us to take the opportunity to clear up, as you mentioned, from the capacity standpoint. And as noted with the K-8s, and because I just want to clarify, because I think it was a very thorough report, perhaps we can ask communications just to put out another refresher maybe on social media so that people understand all of the future focus strategic initiative that is taking place as we move forward, obviously with the changeover with Brentwood, and just as we continue to push the understanding of the K-8s, which I would echo what Mrs. Rose had said. And just a fun note that there are people across the districts across the country that are struggling with this and actually have taken note of some of the strategic changes that we have done and have reached out with questions on how we approached it. So I'd love to see that we are leading the way. So I appreciate the work that you and your team, Mr. Connor, have done to propose this. I know this is a minor change, but if there are no additional comments, members, please vote on the motion before you. And the motion passes unanimously. Moving on to item 9.5, Venice Institute for Performing Arts Center Management, Inc. Agreement. Mr. Connor, can you please present this item?
Yes, Board. This item requests the approval of the agreement between the school board as well as the Venice Institute of Performing Arts Center Management, Incorporated. They provide management, administrative, and technical services to our Venice Performing Arts Center, which is an important resource for our schools and our broader community, as it provides opportunities for student performances, educational program, and also community events. So I bring this to discussion because I know we do. I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Edwards, if that's okay, Madam Chair, just as a board member of the Venice Performing Arts Management Incorporated, to share his involvement there.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. The Venice Performing Arts Institute and Center and the City of Venice and the school district is a joint venture. And the school district uses the building as part of the joint venture. In March, I was invited as a school board member to be a board member of the Venice Performing Arts Institute. Jane Goodwin had that position before. So they invited me, and in full transparency, I don't have to abstain because I don't have a financial interest in the Venice Performing Arts Institute. But on this particular vote, I felt that it was important to disclose full transparency, remind everyone that the Venice Performing Arts Center is a joint venture between the school district and the city of Venice. And I look forward to a very successful outcome in the vote.
Thank you very much. Are there any additional, actually, please, members, I need a motion on the item, if there is one, please. Item 9.5.
I move for approval of the agreement between the Venice Institute for Performing Arts Center Management, Inc. and the School Board of Sarasota County to provide Venice Performing Arts Center management, administrative, and technical services.
I have a motion by Mrs. Rose. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Barker. Are there any further comments? Seeing none, please vote on the item before you. And the motion to approve the Venice Institute for Performing Arts Management Agreement is unanimous. That concludes any items of new business. Excuse me, I'm sorry, Mr. Edwards, you did abstain. Yes. Okay, so let me rewrite for the record. There are 4 yeses and 1 abstention. It still passes. Now we will move to the general items for public comments. Welcome to the second hearing of citizens. This time is for general comments. Each speaker will state their full name and county of residence for the record, and we'll have up to 2 minutes. A timer will signal when 1 minute remains. Please conclude promptly when the timer ends. Outbursts, applause, or other interruptions that disrupt the meeting will not be tolerated, and once one person interferes with the expeditious or orderly process of the meeting, after first being warned that such continued interference will be removed. As a reminder, recordings cannot be played during your 2 minutes of public comment. We appreciate your cooperation. Let's begin with our first speaker. Mr. Springman is first, and Avery Cole is second.
Ron Springman, Venice. This partisan board led by Ziegler has silenced the public by reducing meetings to once a month, shifting them to morning hours, and cutting public speaking time from 3 minutes to 2. They've made it difficult for working parents and students to attend. Also, it was prior practice of letting speakers finish their thoughts while the mic remained on. Yet this rule doesn't apply to the chair. At the close of last meeting, Ziegler went on a 5-minute rant unrelated to district business to attack Tom Edwards, the public, and defend herself. During this rant, she stated her daughter previously attended public school. What she failed to mention is that enrollment occurred before July 2023, when Florida's universal voucher system removed income caps, which the millionaire Zieglers fell under. She sent her child to a public school on the taxpayer's dime. But today, she uses public vouchers to send her 3 kids to private schools to the tune of over $8,000 per student. Beyond this hypocrisy, I must remind Sarasota of the shameful conduct of this board. I urge voters to check YouTube for the December 12, 2023 meeting, where this board voted 4-1 demanding Bridget Ziegler's resignation following a police investigation into video voyeurism and rape by her husband, Christian Ziegler. At the time, that board included Rose and Marinelli. But in November 2025, these same members voted to make Ziegler chair again. They chose to reward scandal instead of elevating Tom Edwards to this chair. It is a shameful move for every voter in Sarasota County to weigh in on. To have a better chance of winning, I urge the challengers of District 1, 2, and 4 to campaign to have, again, 2 board meetings per month and public speaking time back to 3 minutes. I believe Bridget views her board salary and school vouchers as easy money to help pay their annual taxes. Vote her out.
Avery Cole, Sebastian Gersel.
Good morning. My name is Avery Cole. I'm a resident of Sarasota and a rising senior at Booker High School, and it's a little weird to hear me say those words. A typical student will be fully overjoyed entering their senior year, and while I'm excited to see what my last year of high school will bring for me, I can't help but feel a sense of dread and anxiety, not only for what this year will hold for me, but what it will hold for teachers at my school and across this district. For over a year, the community came to you and asked you to help fight to protect our funding. Now we have lost $45 million, teachers are losing their jobs, and schools are losing their resources. And this community is not seeing this board do nearly enough to support our community. 136 teachers have their jobs cut. Current teachers are not being given guidance or support with increased classes and workloads. Our schools are losing students to vouchers and due to lack of transparency from this board. What does this show about our district? How does this entice people to show up and join our public school system? This doesn't show how great our schools are with all the programs we have to offer district-wide. It only shows the bad and the ugly. We champion the phrase, every student, every day, while students, parents, teachers, and staff are being left behind every day. This board does not answer the questions that are being asked by this community. Our questions deserve answers before the school year starts. Students deserve to know that they will have a strong education. Parents deserve to know that they will have a transparent communication with this board. Teachers deserve guidance, and our staff deserve resources to help manage their schools in this ever-changing climate. We deserve answers, and I hope you are willing to give them to us.
Thank you. Next is Sebastian Gersel and then Michelle Posey.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Sebastian Gersel, Sarasota County, and I'm a graduate of Riverview High School. I think it's important that we really paint ourselves a picture for this board where our district was 4 years ago. Because there was a certain election about 4 years ago that changed that outcome very dramatically. We are a district on decline. We are a district riddled with scandal. We are a district where academic success was not prioritized. Rather, a superintendent that praised himself and a board that backed him made it the priority to only enhance their own image. Now where are we? 4 years after that election. 4 years after, since someone already decided to use this microphone for politics. I've been gone for a year. This board has not changed its charisma, especially you, Mr. Edwards. But we might as well just say, we have a conservative school board majority. We've had it for 4 years. And where does that put us? It's put us at number 2 for third grade reading, number 2 for starting teacher pay, a historic 94.3% graduation rate. And now, it's kind of lined up, a state-of-the-art approach to vaping. And that was because of the leadership of this conservative school board. And I'm going to use the word conservative, I'm going to use the word liberal. And if people want to say, well, I'm not liberal, I'm nonpartisan, then, don't lie to my face, don't lie to the voters, and don't lie to everyone else in this room. Because we know exactly who is liberal, we know exactly who is conservative. And at the end of the day, we're going to see those results. We've seen those results the last 4 years. Our district is on track towards success. Are there difficulties? Yes, but as Mr. Edwards stated, using very, very many words, those difficulties came because of a past school board and a past superintendent who could not get it together. And now we are getting it together. We are putting our district back on track economically, we're putting it back on track with success, and we're making sure that we're putting every student first every single day. That is the legacy of the school board, and that is the legacy I am proud to have been a part of. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Michelle Posey and then Alex Doherty.
Thank you, Michelle Posey. Isn't it wonderful when sometimes students can speak far more eloquently than adults? I think the future looks bright from former Sarasota County school students. I want to just confirm, ma'am, you're not on the ballot? Okay. Just wanted to make sure. Guys, we've had some people talking here about full disclosure, so I think I am definitely an advocate for full disclosure. But what I would also say in full disclosure is that the reason I don't wear a badge and I don't introduce myself as a candidate is because I didn't need a reason to come here and be involved at school board meetings. I've been doing this for about 7 years, long before it was in my vested interest because I wanted a title. So that's why I don't disclose myself as a candidate. It's not because I'm hiding something. It's because to all of you, I'm no unfamiliar face. You know that I've always been here. In full disclosure, though, we should like voter integrity to be able to give the voters the consent. If they give us their consent by electing us, we should give them informed consent. So why not, in full disclosure, Let people know what party backs us. Let people know what third-party organizations back us. I think in full disclosure, we at least owe the voters that. And also in full disclosure, I love that we have found out what we knew all along is that some of the practices of our former superintendent left this school district in chaos. And a lot of people in this room today profited off of the circus that was caused when you all decided to fire that superintendent. Do you now see why votes have consequences? Who you vote for on August 18th have consequences. Who they vote in or out as superintendent have consequences, because everything that you are concerned about today fell in the hands of a former superintendent. Thank you guys so much for making the right choice.
Thank you very much. Alex Doherty and Liz Morris. Sir, you're good morning. Next one will be removed. You may go ahead.
Hello, board. It's been a while, hasn't it? So let me reintroduce myself. My name is Alex Doherty, and I'm a resident of Sarasota County who recently graduated from Suncoast Polytech. I've really missed being here in the boardroom, speaking out in the only way I could, until you muzzled the students by changing the meeting times. Then, after you tried to dismantle my school and we showed up to defend it, you worked even harder to keep us silent by imposing harsh consequences on those who still showed up. And I guess it worked for a bit if other students were forced to watch this train wreck from a distance like I was. It must have been nice to go back to your old pattern of ignoring your constituents. I think everyone in this boardroom knows the utter disregard certain members of this board show the communities you're supposed to represent. You cut our meetings in half, set a deadline for a compromise, and failed to reach the deadline that you set up. You then moved meetings to a time completely inaccessible to most students and workers. This might seem like reheated nachos, but this still affects the community. You can't ignore us any longer. I sincerely hope y'all enjoy your second to last board meeting, because even though I can't vote yet, I know my community will elect people who actually listen and care. August 18th is coming.
Thank you very much. Liz Morris and Sophia Crawford.
Good morning, everybody. I'd like to thank you for accommodating those of us who live in Sarasota County by holding today's meeting in Northport. My name is Liz Morris, and I am a resident of South Sarasota County. I'm a public school graduate. I'm a retired public school teacher, having taught for 32 years. My master's degree is in school administration. My biggest takeaways from my graduate school and my real-world teaching experiences were that it is absolutely necessary to tell people the truth, to be transparent, clear about your expectations and goals in order to achieve honest, fair, and successful experiences and outcomes. It begins with all of us, doesn't it? We must hold one another accountable. Let's do what is right, what is just, and elect 3 new school board members on Tuesday, August 18th, our one and only time to do so. No matter where you live in Sarasota County, you can vote for the new school board members that will be representing Districts 1, 4, and 5. On August 18th, Sarasota County voters will decide what kind of public schools we deserve. Let's be clear. To maintain our A rating, we cannot afford losing any more teacher jobs. We've already lost 61. Another $45 million to vouchers, 4,800 more students to vouchers, 2,800 of those are now homeschooled or attend private schools. We cannot afford ICE in our schools, instilling constant fear in our fabulous children. School refiguration, zone changes, fear of consolidation, program cuts, attendance zone changes, campus repurposing. Now, right now, we have an opportunity to ensure this does not happen again. School board seats in Districts 1, 4, and 5 are up for election on Tuesday, August 18th. Vote as if our children's education.
Thank you.
Thank you for hearing me.
Sophia Crawford and Lydia Miller.
Hello, board members. My name is Sophia Crawford, and I'm a student at Venice High School in Sarasota County. and I just wanted to speak briefly as my peers have already touched on so many things so well. So my mom has been a teacher in Sarasota County for over 20 years, so I've seen firsthand how the ineffectiveness and disorganization of the county's job reassignment has affected so many teachers. Specifically, I've seen young teachers cut and reassigned, giving them an unfair disadvantage in a superiority system that doesn't allow them to stay anywhere long enough to gain the proper experience needed to stay in a position. At a time where teachers are underpaid, schools are underfunded, and when there's already a general lack of concern for the well-being and needs of students and teachers by the board, young teachers should be the biggest priority as they are the ones that are noble enough to enter this field at this time. They are the future of the county and they deserve the same opportunities to grow into experienced teachers. And I understand that, yes, cuts are often necessary and unavoidable, but when teachers are getting shuffled around over and over, it hurts the morale of schools and staff. And as you said, there are lives attached to these jobs, and that should be thought of. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And last speaker is Lydia Miller.
Good morning, Lydia Miller, Sarasota, Florida. It's unacceptable and unconscionable for our public schools' tax dollars to be used as welfare for the wealthy, but it's happening and it needs to be stopped. $45 million paid by Sarasota taxpayers and allocated for public school budgets was diverted to private for-profits in the form of vouchers. In the meantime, the school board has continued to undermine the public school system by aligning with ICE, firing teachers, and closing our public schools. Private schools do not have to accept all students, and they don't, and they're not held to standards required by public schools. Dozens of teaching positions have been cut as a small part of the solution to address the budget deficit, but there have been no disclosures on how this will affect school sizes or other obstacles created for parents and students. The greatest society legacy that we can hope to offer is to support public schools, which are the pillars of our communities. On August 18th, may determine the future strength or demise of our public schools, and this is up to you, but on August 18th, I'll be voting for 3 candidates who support public schools and are invested in our communities. And on a side note that Karen Rose was voted out. She is not here as a representative of the people. She was put in there by DeSantis for a vacated seat. Thank you.
That concludes public comment, or what I feel like has turned into school board campaigning. But I'll just say for the record that the governor was voted in by Florida voters overwhelmingly and does have that right to make that appointment. So I'll just make that clarity since there's a lot of false statements being made, but just want to go on the record for that. That concludes any board business. I'm sure there are some commentary from any board members. I will open the floor to whoever would like to speak first. Mrs. Rose.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sorry.
Thank
you, Madam Chair. On a positive note, I want to recognize Noah Moisey again for student safety and being recognized, and also the Barancik Foundation for the number of years that they have had an incredible impact on academic achievement and the recognition of teachers and endless support of our district. And I can't say enough about their impact, particularly in middle schools and the millions of dollars that they invested in technology infrastructure. To the young lady who spoke so articulate about tenure and teachers and how surplusing is done in a reduction of force, I wholeheartedly agree with you. I think that my desire would be that as a board we had more control over that. That's actually the teachers unions and the local teachers union that invests in that process, and so that's the people you need to be emailing and stating your voice as a community, because I think that voice is extraordinarily important. Our young teachers and our new teachers come with great enthusiasm and brilliance, and I couldn't agree more. The rest of the talking points, and there was discussion about really being candid. And there's, school board members are all of those that are running, and the three conservatives on the board who were previously endorsed by the Republican Party are not running. But I will say that it is best practices to create your talking points and continually attack us as if we are, but you're not really. You're starting off your campaign process and not really being true to the community, because you are leading them to believe that you are campaigning against us not winning an election. We're not running. And the time to sign up and file is over. So I encourage you to be more honest with the community. And if we're going to, talk about support, I'm proud of my support. I had over 48,000 votes, and I will continue to represent those people. And I couldn't be more honored to have been surprised and asked to take this role on by our governor. And I'm extraordinarily proud of that. And my tenure in this district and my focus on academic achievement is finally coming to fruition. Many years, I'm not afraid to walk into the storm or against the wind. That's what it takes to get the results that we're going to have that you really don't talk about. I encourage the public, because the newspaper won't do it, to look at financial statements. If you want to talk about candidates, when you have candidates whose financial statement is in the negative, that's something to look at. When you're asking people to vote for a billion-dollar plus budget. Those are the kinds of things that are important, not the organized by the Democratic Party and the C Alliance talking points, attacking board members, falsifying to the community what's really going on. And candidates whose Facebook pages have previously talked about what a headache or words to that effect that parents were when they were a teacher. There's a lot to be said. If you want to say it, I'm going to tell you again. We are where we are, and I am where I am because I'm not afraid to walk into the wind or walk into the storm. You can try to intimidate me or recreate my legacy. I'm going to stay focused on what we have gained. And that is a tremendous district with a tremendous leadership, strong systems, and academic achievement that's never occurred previously in this district. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. I will add, and I know that just to hinge off of that before it goes off to different topics, was mentioned by a member of the public comment about the staffing components. I wholeheartedly agree as well. I know the superintendent and I have been talking about an opportunity to really go through the contract for the public to understand, because I think there are elements in there that the community really don't know exist that really undermine management's ability. And when we went through this unusual process that we found ourselves, because, as I mentioned, with the CARES funding and the massive flow of money from the federal government and positions that were brought on, we found ourselves in that moment where you have, based on seniority and you're moving things, and I think there's a larger question on, is there an opportunity to improve that? It's a lot harder than that, but I think from a moment in time, it would prove very, very valuable for the community and the board and the incoming board, whomever that may be, to understand what is in fact in that contract that really does dictate some of those things, just as we move ahead to try to strengthen our district and look at long-term succession planning. I just wanted to comment on that. Mr. Connor, are you recognized?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just wanted to give a few updates. I know during public comment there were a few requests, and while not necessarily the board meeting is always a time to respond to those, when I think there's ability to do so, I'll take that opportunity. So, for instance, recess, that was brought up in terms of what are we doing about recess? Can we increase recess? So there are a couple of competing factors in this equation. Obviously, we have required statutory minutes for instruction, right? So we know at 4.5 there's 300 minutes of required instructions. There are mandates when it comes to recess of the 100 minutes, as eloquently stated, and then of course there is 150 minutes of PE that is required throughout the week as well. So when you take that in culmination, you have a lot of competing initiatives for the limited amount of time that we actually have students in our purview. So once we take care of the instructional process, we meet those instructional minutes for recess at 20 minutes per day, and then the 150 minutes per week if PE, that is almost equivalent to about an hour a day of physical activity. It's not unstructured play necessarily in physical education, but at least there is some type of release there where they can be physical and active in that sense. So, it really does come down to what are we going to take off the plate, and with the very limited time that we actually have in front of students, that's the push that we're having right now. I am a proponent of more recess. I would love to see that. But the competing initiatives with instruction do become very, very complicated, and it is not as easy as just saying, well, let's just add an extra minute. Every minute of that elementary schedule it's down to the wire, from transitions to lunch to specials and all of that. So that's kind of our issue there. There wasn't a request of an update about the track at Philippi Shores. We are in the midst of those discussions, right? We are talking, there are some state facility requirements when you build any type of infrastructure on a school campus. There are some construction requirements that have to occur, and then, of course, drawings for Swift Mud. All of those are in progress right now. Actually, the team is meeting tomorrow for the next phase of that. That is a PTO-funded initiative, by the way, board. The PTO raised money to put in a track at Philippi Shores. They're pushing that initiative, which, in theory, we're very, very supportive of that. But at the end of the day, we can't just put in a track without meeting all of those requirements and making sure every bit of that safety component's in place and the state requirements there. So that's where we're at in terms of that. Wanted to provide an update because we have been talking about the surplusing of the 136 instructional staff that occurred at the beginning of the summer or the spring. And so we have placed 75 of those at this point. So we are down to 61 still unassigned, and we know we are hitting that June 30th date here soon, and we did state to those employees that they essentially would be released from their contract in 2 weeks on June 30th, but that their seniority would freeze and that we would continue to work. HR has been very actively working with those individuals on placements as they become available. We just placed 4 yesterday, or last week. So those are opportunities for every day we get a new update to really whittle that number down. And I think I'm actually very encouraged that we have made it to 61 unassigned at this point so far. That is exceeded what I thought we would be. And so as we move into July, we still have 2 weeks in June, we can continue to see that number whittle down, hopefully to 0 by the time school starts. And then of course we go through the 5-day process, right? We come to see who actually enrolls in our schools, who is, we call it cheeks in the seat, right? Who's sitting in front of the teacher during the first 5 days. And we count that because that is how we make decisions for allocations for the fall. As we roll out this Future Focus Strategic Initiative, I'm very encouraged to say that we are exceeding our projections for 6th grade at the 4 K-8 models. Some significantly. I think I have the numbers here in front of me just to give you an idea. So at Alta Vista, we had projected 40. We're currently sitting at 62. At Brentwood, we had projected 43. We are currently sitting at 70, 27 up from projections. We are 5 up at Gulfgate. We're sitting at 68, and we are 9 up at Wilkinson from 37 and actually sitting at 46. So, 63 total beyond what we projected. So we're going to continue to press that. We do know that there are still other challenges and areas that we're looking at across our district. McIntosh is one we're going to heavily focus on going into 26. We need, as a board, to talk about what are we going to do at McIntosh. That is an opportunity for the school district. And knowing that we couldn't 100% create coverage in the Future Focus Strategic Initiative with all of our capacity, I knew McIntosh would be an area that we would have to focus on going into this year. So that's a great opportunity for the board and what we can reimagine there. So I think that's all of my updates, and hopefully I addressed most of what concerns were there. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Connor, and I cannot wait till the Macintosh conversation happens. Mrs. Barker, you're recognized.
Thank you. Gosh, what good news to hear that some of what we hoped would happen is happening, and that just is wonderful. I'm thrilled. And on that positive note, I wanted to notice that another thing that I have been seeing come across my desk and my social media is all the time that our teachers are already spending working towards preparing for next year, and the excitement that they have for these professional learning opportunities. They are very busy strategically thinking and planning and working to ensure that they are ready to serve our students in the fall, and so to see their joy and excitement to participate in these opportunities is inspiring to me. And so it's inspired me to continue my own professional learning. I had an opportunity to attend the Florida School Board Association conference. Mr. Connor was there with his Florida Association of Superintendents. Mr. Edwards was there, and I have to tell you, I know that it is easy to focus on the storm that is all around us. It's a Cat 5, like we are in it. But the truth is, across this entire state, there are leaders that are invested and excited and who are working every single day to protect and strengthen and improve the product that we offer our students, public education. And I am so excited to continue that. No matter who comes to sit in these 3 seats, I would challenge all of you candidates, be ready to learn, be ready to grow, be ready to work with us, because change is here, change will keep coming. Maybe the hurricane will slow down a little, maybe the eye will curve a little, we can all hope. But the way that we make this the safest environment for our students, the way that we give them the best outcomes, is having a strong local government body who's here to insulate some of those impacts. So whoever you are who comes to these seats, be ready to join us in that work. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Barker. Are there any additional comments before we move on to general announcements? Mrs. Marinelli.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I purposely did not talk earlier because I've been writing down my thoughts. Thank you, Superintendent Connor. You addressed some of them with the PE, and my fellow board members you addressed. But I really want to focus, because I have talked about this for the 3.5 years I've been on this board, the boardroom conduct. I have never seen such disrespect anywhere in all my 45 years in public. You can put your hand down, I see you. I have never seen anything. Whether it's from students calling me by my first name, which is very disrespectful, but I'm assuming that's why you do it. Please put your hand down. You cause so much, just stop. If not, I'm gonna ask for removal because I'm over it. So, Ms. Rose, I am very interested in talking about what goes on in this boardroom. Because I agree, what that thing from Moms for Liberty, that has things spelled out. We do have procedures. We do have a policy. So I think we can put boundaries on the kind of things that are said in this boardroom. And former teachers, some of the things that you say, whether you're from Sarasota County or not, then it makes me wonder, whatever did you say in your classrooms? I have never talked to a student or an adult or a board member, and I worked in Sarasota County for over 40 years, and I've done many presentations to board members. Didn't mean I agreed with them, but I would never disrespect any board member like people have disrespected board members in this room for the last 3.5 years. So I most certainly, and I do think our attorney needs to help us with this, Because this is, for who's ever in this seat, it needs to stop. And when we talked about the reduction in staff, I've never fired a teacher. Never fired a teacher as a board member. That's not my role. The superintendent brings his recommendations to us. Thank goodness that charter school on the Schools of Hope made the mistake and sent those letters all to Sarasota County so we could act. We were the only district of 67 in this county that made the innovation that our superintendent brought to us as recommendations. We weren't hiding anything from any community when the Wilkinson came up. That's the superintendent's responsibility as the CEO to bring these recommendations to the board. You don't go and spread things out before he has a chance to bring recommendations. When you have the recommendations, that's when you get public input. And we got wonderful public input. We got it from Wilkinson. We got it from Polytech. It was the things that needed to happen. So we weren't trying to hide anything. We're not trying to hide anything in the budget. You're welcome to make an appointment with the CEO of finance and go through that budget book that's like that. You can go and do that. Before I got on the board, you couldn't even look up on the web page a school budget. You can now. So if you're going to say things, whether you're a candidate or you're a student or you're a member of the community, make sure you have the information that's correct to bring. Because it's disgusting, the things that have gone on the last 3.5 years. And just to reiterate the recess, there is so much developmental for a child in those early stages on recess. But when the demands have become more and more and more, and we see it in our children because they're skipping those developmental stages. But we have to follow what DOE tells us that we have this much time, because then you have testing, you have all these things, but kids still need to be kids, especially in this world of technology when they're all on their phones. And also, I tell you, people in this community have been asking me for a couple of years, what really goes on in the boardroom? And you have given me so much to share. I tell people, watch the public comments, and that'll give you an idea what goes on in this boardroom. If you watch a workshop, that's where the business goes. And the one-on-one with the superintendent. It's not at these meetings. This is when we vote on things and we listen to you. But thank you so much, because I just tell people, watch the public comments and you will see. And the ones that do, they are appalled. They're appalled at the behavior that goes on in this boardroom. So who's ever going to be in these 3 seats, do your homework and be ready to work and have the correct information, because our #1 job is for children. #1. And we hire the best and give support to teachers. I'm a retired teacher. I'm a retired school counselor. I'm a retired administrator. I know what it's like to get no support when my beginning years of teaching in Lexington, Kentucky. I know what that's like. And then moving to Sarasota and having so many resources presented to me, just like Ms. Barker said, teachers are already taking all this workshop. That doesn't cost them anything, but they get to use those points to renew their certification. So you listen to some of the comments in here, it's all doom and gloom. When you have teachers out there that are so excited to bring their new stuff that they're learning for students in August. So I'm so appreciative that they sign up and they take parts of their summer to be innovative and to learn things, because I can't thank them enough, because they are the heart of our school system. And I also want to thank all the administrators in here for everything that you have done that we've had to vote on I appreciate it very much, Mr. Connor. I appreciate all the innovation that you, for the 3 years, because you entered this district with so many issues, and you've handled them with grace. You meet with the community, you meet with parents. Anytime, I can't speak for other board members, but if I bring a concern to you, you will meet with a parent or talk with them. And I thank you for that, because that is why our district is above everybody else. So I thank you. And then on another positive note, yesterday I went and represented my fellow board members at the Suncoast Technical College Criminal Justice Academy graduates. And that was really nice and exciting to see that all these young people that are choosing to go into law enforcement, and that is part of our Sarasota County's technical college courses that they've taken. So they had their families there, and they were also excited. So it was another graduation. And then also I'd like to say that June is Faith and Family Month. And I think that is very important, especially the family part, because family is the heart, and that's why we have our children trusted in our school system. So thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Marinelli. If there are no additional comments, Mr. Edwards, you're recognized.
So I want to say that a lot of what Mrs. Marinelli said is valid, because when I got here 6 years ago, it was a flip-flop of who was being attacked and the language. If you're focused in on political parties, I don't use the political party words here. I've heard them on the dais even today. I hear them from public commenters. I don't use them. I'm in a nonpartisan job, and my focus has been students all the time. And if you're not a school board member that is supporting your superintendent, then you're in the wrong job. I assume every time I sit down with the superintendent that we may have differences of opinions, but that we're all the wind beneath his wings and doing whatever we can to support all of his initiatives. I'm assuming that. And the results are showing that. What frustrates me is the lack of civility that started in the boardroom 6 years ago under a political movement that I kept saying this is a political, I didn't even call it by name. I said there's a political movement afoot in this boardroom, and it started there, and it's just gone off the rails. And I think everyone knows what it is without me having to articulate it. What also frustrates me is that if there's a disagreement amongst board members, which is going to happen, I am offended many times that when I disagree or I espouse a different viewpoint, it is coined an attack or political. It's always described that way, and I get a retort. 90% of the time, I keep my mouth shut because I don't want the public to view a difference of opinion as school kids disagreeing on the playground. But I have had a finger wagged in my face. I am constantly, when I disagree, it's political or it's an attack. So, I need to clear up one thing, or two things, that happened in the last board meeting that had to do with the reputation of the school district and my reputation personally. Coincidentally, they were both about a mask policy that happened 5 years ago. But I want to let the public know that the yellow lanyard that was described by a public commenter never existed. It was never a policy. I checked with all of our policies. I looked through AI. I talked specifically to administrators in that time period. It was not a policy. So I don't want the school district to be blamed for something that was described so horribly and offensively. And so I want to make sure that the school district reputation is not part of that conversation. The second thing is, I had a fellow board member say that she removed her children because of a mask policy that was put into place. And I want to give you the dates and timelines about the mask policy so that hopefully once and for all we can put this to bed. I was elected and seated in November of 2020. The mask policy at that time was mandatory. It was mandatory until the end of the school year. In July of 2021, it was voted to be a optional mask policy. I voted, positively, July of 2021. I looked this all up, I have it all documented. In July of 2021.
Tom Edwards, you are warned. That you're warned, don't make me have to kick you out.
I'll take that warning.
July of 2020, and I voted with Mrs. Ziegler and Mrs. Rose to make it optional. So on August 10th, which coincidentally was the start of the school year, it was optional. On August 22nd, Mrs. Brown, the chair of the board, called for a special meeting because the Omicron variant brought the positivity rate up to 23% in the school district. And so she called for a special meeting. At that time, in that special meeting, I introduced an amendment. Because I was listening to both sides of the coin. People didn't want a mask policy, people did. I was getting phone calls from the administration of the hospital to please put in a mask policy because the workers in the hospital, whether they were doctors, nurses, or whomever, were staying at home and protecting their children because they were home because of a quarantine. And the hospital begged me to vote for it. And I'm sure they called all the individual board members the same way. I introduced an amendment that said the first time the positivity rate is 3 days in a row of 8%, it becomes optional once again. Mrs. Ziegler commended me for creating something that was measurable and accountable, still voted no, but thanked me for creating that. The mask policy lasted 3 weeks. That's it, the mandatory. It was taken off in 3 weeks because the positivity rate dropped back down. But here's the kicker. And I looked this up. In June of 2021, that same school board member was on Fox News and said that she removed her children because of a conversation around white supremacy that happened with her daughter. That was in June that she said that she removed those kids. And in the last board meeting, she said it was because of the mask policy. So I want to set my reputation and my record straight. I heard both sides of the coin and created that option so that a mandatory could become temporary. And that's my personal reputation when people throw out that I wanted a mask policy. I didn't vote for the first one, and I got us out of the second one. I yield back the floor.
There is a lot of inconsistencies, and I toe a line, but wanted to make clear because you have regular public commenters talk about the fact of moving a child to private school, and I want to just again reiterate that as a parent with young children, and at that time, the only one up there are massive implications on the votes that we take daily, not daily for parents, and that's not a weight that you would ever understand, full stop. You made a lot of assertions there, and I'm happy to go back and look at them, but I know I said one of the reasons, among many, was the mask pace. And that is why we lost a plethora of a lot of families who, by the way, have not come back, who, by the way, had other children like myself. And I, by the way, I'm on a softball field regularly, talking to families regularly, engaging with them all the time. Some are public school students, some are not. And many who are not, and Mr. Connor knows this all the time, that I regularly explain to them that they're constantly looking at different options. And for the first time in a long time, they're seeing the trajectory of the school district get all the social justice garbage out, all of the, all of those other things that really are what people do not want to send their kids to, even if they're supportive of it, by the way. That has changed. The culture has changed, and that is significantly because of the policies that we pushed here, policies I personally worked on at the state level, and because we have a superintendent for the first time with a backbone that will actually hold the line, which did not exist before Mr. Connor, full stop. And that, by the way, was a superintendent that you were willing to support no matter what. And again, that we had to, as a board, Mrs. Rose made the motion, and it was a very difficult time to lead through. Mr. Connor came in at a very difficult time. He kept his head down. He focused on what mattered. He put a leadership team that is unprecedented. And every single moment that we've had results come forward, it demonstrates that. So we can go round and round, but I will never, ever apologize as a parent for doing what is right for my child first and foremost. And I would hope that every parent would do the same. So the way in which the language that oftentimes Mr. Edwards likes to, and many people who come to speak in public comment, I will say I don't ever hear Mrs. Barker kind of go down that route, and I think it largely is because she's a parent and understands that at the core of a parent, they're going to do what's right for their child over and above any system. But as a board member, I am proud of the work that we've done. But that you just put down is nowhere near the accuracy, and I'm happy to go find them out because there are many things that you voted for that are reasons why people have left our public schools. And there are many reasons of what we have supported and championed that you just demised as distractions that are the reasons that people have faith, are restoring faith in coming back to our public schools. And again, it goes down to the leadership that Mr. Connor and his team, along with the board that has supported things that are ending the distractions, ending the polarization, ending the categories of how we're going to, or the subcategories of how we look at our students. And it really is every student for every day, and it's not their quote-unquote identities or whatever subcategory they want to qualify for. With all of that said, Mrs. Rose, and then I will conclude with announcements.
Prior to announcements, for the record, having been there, the one piece that was left out is that there was a mandate from the governor of Florida and the Surgeon General to not mandate masks, and there's also an oath of office that is taken as a constitutional officer, so there's always a lot of variables. And I don't have an issue with those being shared from your perspective, but I am going to include the experience I had in the same venue. And once again, on the positive note, we are in an incredibly great place for academic achievement. And that's really what it's all about. And if I had a greatest desire or wish, it was that, yes, 6 years ago, it is correct. The Republicans were doing what the Democrats have been doing for 3.5 years. It's kind of a phenomena that you tell your children because you think someone else did something wrong, it's okay if I did, because it's not becoming of this district what you say you really want. Be honest. Thank you.
Yes, let's be honest. Okay, that concludes all of the comments. I'm going to make some announcements. This has not been yet announced, but we have a pending workshop Monday, June 22nd, a time to be determined. At this point, it'll be 10 o'clock, and it's to cover budget items that will be advertised as such. After that, the next monthly work session is Tuesday, July 14th at 10 a.m. The next regular board meeting is Tuesday, July 21st at 10 a.m., which will include the vote to advertise the tentative budget. The public hearing to adopt the tentative millage village, and the budget meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, July 28th at 5:01 p.m. If there are no additional comments, and without objection, we stand adjourned.